this new series, I'm going to read for you a novel where you're going to listen to British pronunciation and rehearse your ears and practice your listening. Today, we have this novel, our first novel, that I will read for you. This novel is called The Coral Island. Now, let's start reading this novel. Chapter 1. I was born into a family of adventures. My father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all sea captains who devoted their lives to exploring faraway places. It's no surprise then that I spent most of my childhood dreaming about exotic destinations and thrilling adventures on the open sea. When I was old enough, I persuaded my father to allow me to join the crew of the cargo ship. I learnt a great deal about life on board a ship, and I also had the opportunity to visit a number of seaports around my native England. My name is Ralph, and my fellow crew members nicknamed me Ralph Rover. A rover is a traveller, a person who can never stay in one place for too long. I quite liked the name, and I never saw a reason to change it. I met a number of sailors during my travels, and I spent many evenings listening to them talk about their experiences in foreign lands. I was particularly interested in the stories I heard about the coral islands of the Pacific Ocean. The sailors described the spectacular natural beauty of these islands to me in detail. They told me all about the coconut palms and exotic fruits, the warm climate and plenty of sunshine, the crystal clear waters and soft sandy beaches. They also mentioned the tribes of natives who lived on many of these islands, some of whom were particularly savage and violent. When I turned 15, I decided that the time had come to travel to the Pacific. My father said I was too young for such a long trip, but I managed to convince him to let me join the crew of a merchant ship called the Arrow. Within a few short weeks, I was on my way to the Coral Islands. I was sad to leave my parents and my home, but I was also very excited about the adventures that lay ahead. I made two friends on board the Arrow. Their names were Jack Martin and Peterkin Guy. Jack was a tall, strong, young man of 18, who was well educated and fearless, and Peterkin was a funny, fun-loving 14-year-old boy who always made the crew laugh. For the most part, our journey was peaceful. We encountered some rough weather when we reached Cape Horn, the southern tip of America, but we managed to move on without much difficulty. A few weeks later, we were sailing on the deep waters of the Pacific Ocean. We finally arrived at the Coral Islands, and I will never forget the moment when one of those beautiful islands came into view. The stunning white beaches and emerald green palm trees took my breath away. My friends and I were certain we'd find paradise. One night, soon after we'd entered the tropics, a typhoon started. Fierce winds and huge waves beat our ship for almost a week. And during that time, nearly everything was swept off the deck, except for one small boat. On the 6th day of the storm, we noticed an island ahead of us. The island was surrounded by coral reef. which protected it from the violent waves. The lagoon, the stretch of the water inside the reef, was surprisingly calm. We tried to steer the ship through a narrow gap in the reef, but a powerful wave destroyed our rudder, leaving us at the mercy of the storm. Our only hope was to lower the boat into the water and row ashore. But the boat was too small to carry us all to safety. So my friends and I came up with another plan. This is the end of chapter 1. "The ship is going to hit the reef," shouted Jack above the roar of the storm. "When it does, the three of us will hold on to an oar and jump into the lagoon. Hopefully we will end up on the shore." Just then, an enormous wave came crashing into the deck. The ship struck the coral reef, and the entire crew was thrown into the ocean. Jack, Peterkin, and I grabbed hold of an oar and dived into the water. I must have lost my consciousness, because the last thing I remember was the frantic cries of the sailors as the ship was being swallowed up by the sea. Hope you like the beginning of this novel. Stay tuned for the next episode of Chapter 2 of the novel Coral Island. I hope you liked it and have a great day. Take care.